It's a huge amount of data, Ravi.
A big data is a huge amount of the data. How much huge amount
Yeah,
of the data?
and that the amount of data that we can't process through a regular RDBMS.
Huge amount of the data which cannot able to,
Store in normal RDBMS or
yes,
any file
which
system.
which cannot able to process or store using an existing system, it can be anything, right? That data, I mean exist, so which cannot be able to process using store and process an existing system efficiently. The main is it may your RDBMS or an existing system may process a data, but it may not be efficient, right? So whatever the data you are not able to process and store and process and manage with using an existing system, that data is a big data. That data is a big data. Process efficiently. Okay, so when we say huge amount of the data, is there any size limit for this? Is there any size limit? If it is a huge data, so let's take, I want to take 100 MB. Can I say 100 MB is a big data? Can I say 100 MB is a big data?
Yes, if a traditional system is not able to capable of processing that, for example, as I said in the last example of sending a mail of 100 MB size.
Yep. So if you see, as per the definition, amount of data which cannot able to store and process efficiently using current system, an existing system, that can be RDBMS system, that can be anything, that data will call as a big data. That is the definition, right? So in this case, this 100 MB of file or 100 MB data, we cannot process, we cannot send through an email application. You can take any email application, or it may be a different format of the data, or it may different format of the data, or it may be having a different characteristics of the data. What does it mean when we say big data? The size is not only the constraint. The size is not only the constraint. It has the apart from the size, we have some more characteristics and classification of the data. Classification of the data. So let's try to understand. Let's try to understand what are the classifications are available with the big data. So the data has been classified into three categories. Classification of the data. If a data, when I look at the data, when I look at the data, it has a different kind of structure. If it kind of have a different kind of structure, it follows a different kind of pattern, or if it follows a different kind of a schema. So based on the data it appears, like based on the data it looks, it can be a schema, it can be a pattern, it can be the way it looks. Based on that, the data has been classified into three categories. Some people will say, some places will say like it is two categories, and actually it is three categories. It is structure, it is a structure, unstructure, and and semi-structure. Structure data. What is the structured data? A data, when you look at the data is following and whenever they look at the data has a single schema. It does not have a multiple schemas in it. And where from whichever the source you take this data, it appears the same. From whichever the source you take the data, it appears the same. And it follows the as I said, single schema, and the example is table. Table. So when you take a table from any database, it follows the same structure: columns and rows. Here the delimiters of the fields, the delimits of the data is columns. When you look at the table, when you take a MySQL table, or when you take Oracle table, or when you take a Postgres, any of the table always follows a structure, columns and rows. So the columns are actually delimiters. The columns are actually delimiters. So when I look at this data, it has a proper structure. Or when I go and look at any other data which has a table format, it will be having the same structure. But here I may have a 4 columns, somewhere I may have a 2 columns, I may have only 1 column, kind of thing. But the data, whatever the data we are putting into a table, it has a structure. A similar kind of example is your Excel sheets. Your Excel sheets and your CSV files, comma separated value files. Comma separated value files. What is a comma separated value files? When you look at the CSV files, you will be having a field 1, comma, field 2, comma, field 3, comma, and so on. The comma is the only delimiter here who is separating the fields, or who is separating the data into different, I can say the columns, or I can say who is separating your fields. It's a single delimiter. And like TSV files, tab separated files. Tab separated files. So these are the example for structured data, which has a single pattern, which has a single delimiter, which follows when you look at the data, the data easily we can understand by seeing the delimiter, and the delimiter saying that okay, this field is divided by comma, next field is delimited by comma. So when you look at the data, when you are able to recognize easily by single delimiter, and that type of data will call as a structured data. That type of data will call as a structured data. Coming to unstructured data, can you guys tell me some example for unstructured data? Can anyone tell me an example for unstructured data?
Log files.
Log files, okay.
Videos and images.
Okay.
Page files.
So can you, one guy said log file, images and videos. Okay. Another one is H files. Okay. Any other examples? Any other examples? So when we say unstructured data, the best example for unstructured data is image files, audio, and video. These are the best example for audio, for unstructured data. So rest of the files, like whatever we say, text files, log files, email, XML, JSON, any other files, whatever you say, it comes under semi-structure. So as I said before, when we categorize two, these two will come one. This 2 will comes under one category, which is unstructured. So when we categorize 3 categories, it's clearly categorized semi-structure. So unstructured, it's very clearly saying that images, audio, video, which will not be having any structure. Coming to semi-structure, in the semi-structure we have a text files. So do we have a structure in the text files? We do not have any structure in the text file. But when you look at very high level, we don't have any structure in the text files. But when you look at a little, little go deeper, when you look at the data, so text files are a collection of lines. A collection of lines. Each line is again a collection of words. Each word is separated with a single space. Each word is separated with a single space. Still, I do see a little structure in the text type of data. When I take two word documents or when I take two text files, and those text files will be having collection of lines, line by line, line by line. So each line will be terminated single /n, the new line character, and each line is a collection of words, and the word is separated with a single space, right? So I do find a little structure over there to process the text file kind of data. When it comes to log file, how the log file looks, let me show you the log file. I think I have recently downloaded log files. No, here I don't have any log file, it seems. It's okay, fine, not a problem. So log files looks like such a way that different log files have a different format, but ideally it will be having IP address, it will be having a date, timestamp, type of log, so type of log, and browser agent or a class or some other information will be there. So when you look at here, you will be having IP address, then date and timestamp and what type of log it is and some other information here. But when I look at this log file, it has a proper structure, right? It will be this /t, it will be tab separated. So whatever the way we write, right? But when I look at it, it has a single delimiter which is a /t. So it looks structure, right? It has a structure. But how can we say, how can we bring the log file into semi-structure? Because this log file, whatever the log file we're talking about, that is a successful log file. When the log file is failed, I mean when the operation is failed, what are the operation we're trying to do? It will start emitting the log in the different format, which is not a structure format. Like it will show an exception, which line it is, right? So it may show complete stack of the complete stack of your log where it has been occurred to that method. I mean that method or a class has been who called the complete the stack will be printed in the console or in our log file. And coming to emails are again the same as similar as your text files. And XML files also, when you look at the XML files, you'll be having a tag which is a parent tag, and you'll be having some child tag and the close child tag and the close parent tag. But next to parent tag may have child, I mean parent, it may have a child, then we may have a subchild, and we may have some attributes, then close, then parent close. So when I'm trying to process this kind of data, it really does not have a same structure. It may have one parent, it may have one child, it may not have a child. So it looks a little different. It's not actually a structure, but I cannot say it is unstructured, but it has some structure. That type of data will call semi-structure, right? So if you take JSON data, the JSON data looks such a way that you'll be having some key, colon, and value. Key, colon, value. It can be again key value. Then it looks like it has a proper structure, right? Key is there, associated value is there. Key is there, associated value is there. Then how we can say it is a semi-structure? Why can't we say it's a structured data? When I look at this, a key is there. My value can be again a collection of or array of JSON. Again I can say a value is array of or a collection of JSON, right? So it does not have one key value pair may have very plain key comma value, and other key value pair may have a collection of key value pairs. A JSON object, the value can be again is another JSON object. It can be again another JSON object. So this type of data will call as a semi-structured data. We cannot even say it's a structure, but at the same time we cannot even say it's an unstructured. When I look at a little deeper, when we look at it very closely, we can find some structure on this data. Based on the structure, we can start processing the data. So that type of data we will call as a semi-structure. So these are the characteristics of your data, big data. If the data has this type of characteristics, that type of data we can call as a big data. So not only a big data, even normal data also have this kind of characteristics. If anyone has this kind of characteristics, and if we need to process this type of data, we are designing any solution for any type of data. So we can specify like it can be a such structured data, it can be semi-structured data, it can be unstructured data. Any doubts still here? Any doubts? Vicky, Vignesh, Swami, Sudhir, Devashish. Any doubt, guys? Guys, whenever you get a doubt, please raise. Go ahead and ask me. Don't wait till I complete or till I till last moment. We don't have anything like a question and answer kind of time slot for that. So you can ask me whenever you got a question. Is this clear, guys? Yes, Sudhir. Yes. PDF files are semi-structure.
So it should be semi-structured?
Yes, it's a semi-structure. Okay, so these are about the characteristics or classification of the data. Let's see characteristics of data. Let's see characteristics of data. There are few characteristics of the data. So these are like, some people will say 3V problem, some people will say it is a 4V. So I have seen it's a 6V, and some of the blogs and some of the books, some of the authors are saying 10V. So we are going to see 6Vs, 6 different kind of characteristics of the data. And the 10V, I really didn't get the I mean, I really not satisfied with this 10Vs, so that's why I'm not explaining these things. So, but I have satisfied with the 6Vs, so I have seen them, so the characteristics. So that's the reason I'm explaining the 6Vs. The first V is saying that volume, the amount of the data, we are processing, the size of the data. So how much data we are processing, how much data we need to process, that it represent, the volume represent, the one of the characteristics of the data is how big the data is, how it represents the size of the data, how much size of the data it is. Characteristics 2 represents velocity, how fast the data is get generated. So whatever the data we are talking about, huge amount of the data, how fast, how much time it is taken to generate the data, how fast the data is getting generated, the speed of the data is getting generated. Variety, variety of the data, like we are just seen, structure, unstructure, semi-structure, different kinds of data, variability, so my current source is giving me structured data. Now I have added another sources to my system to process the data. That source may give a different kind of data, or an existing system I have changed my application, my system may give a different kind of data. So variable, it's keep changing from structure to semi-structure or unstructured. So currently it's giving structured data, it may change to semi-structure or it may change to unstructured. So the data is not constant. The format of the data is not constant. The data is keep changing, variable. It says that variability. And next we represent veracity. How trust the data is, how good the data is. We'll be processing different kind of data, how good the data is. And the next we represent value. So after processing the huge amount of the data, we will get the numbers, like these many has been sales, this is the sales, and these many mobiles has been sold out, these many home appliances has been sold out, and these many books has been sold out. So we will be getting a numbers, analytics. So using those values or using those reports, we will be improving our business. So the value is the most important characteristics out of all of these characteristics. Anyone has any doubt about this characteristics of the data? Any doubts about the characteristics of the data? Okay, so let's move. So this is about the data. Let's try to understand what is a Hadoop now. What is a Hadoop? What is Hadoop, guys, who attended my previous sessions? What is a Hadoop?
Hadoop is a Java-based open source framework which stores huge amount of data and processes the same amount of data efficiently compared with the existing system or the traditional system.
Very good. So Hadoop is a Java-based open source application I mean, I can say it's an open source framework. Hadoop is a Java based open source framework which will store a huge amount of the data, and which will manage and process the huge amount of the data efficiently. It is a Java based open source framework. What does it mean? The framework, it has been designed by using Java. So what is the main purpose of this tool? This framework, the main purpose of this framework is store the huge amount of the data and process that huge amount of the data efficiently. Store huge amount of the data and process huge amount of the data efficiently compared to an existing system, or compared to a traditional system. How it will store the huge amount of the data? Does it has any database inside, or is there anything else, or how it will store and how it will process? So Hadoop framework come up with two components. The components are like HDFS. Another component is MapReduce. These are the only two components. These are only two components of Hadoop. When you install Hadoop, these are the only two components you get. So you may see that some other tools, these are all on top of your Hadoop. So we'll talk about that later. So as soon as you install Hadoop software, these two components will come. Sir, I'm seeing that somewhere I have installed different kind of Hadoops. So I'm seeing each and every, all the tools are available. But the Hadoop is a collection of these two components. One is a HDFS, another one is a MapReduce. And whatever the components you see on top of it, whatever the tools you see on top of it, they are come from the third-party tools. I can say they are all integrated with the Hadoop. Okay. So how it will store the data? Sir, you said that it will store the huge amount of the data. How it will store? To store the data, it has its own file system. The HDFS represents the HDFS, the abbreviation or full form of this, Hadoop Distributed. It's a file system. It is a file system. And MapReduce is some map and reduce. First it will map and it will reduce. The HDFS component is mainly for storing the data. It is for storing the data. It's not like mainly, it is for storing the data. The MapReduce component is for processing the data. It is for the processing the data. So, sir, it is storing the data. Does it mean it is any database? No, it is not a database. It is a file system. What it is? It is a file system. Let's take a word by word from this definition, or from HDFS. So what is the file system? What is a file system? Can anyone tell me, please? What is a file system?
A file system is who manages data in the form of folders, files such as parent activities and directories.
Correct. So a file system is a layer on top of operating system who manages your directories and files, who keep the references of your files and directories which is stored in the hard disk, right? So who will be using this file system? The file system will be using by your operating system. Your operating system will be using this file system. So this file system keep the references of it may maintain the table. Internally it maintains the table, the references where the data is located, which address the data is located in the hard disk, right? So here there are different kind of file systems we have. We have FAT, NTFS, ext4, FOFIX. There are different kind of file systems are available, right? So let's see, already have a file system, then why we need a different kind of file system here? We already have a file systems, different kind of file systems are available. Why we need other file systems? When I have a file system, why we need other file system? So in this file system, whatever the data you load, okay, whatever the data you store into your hard disk, the data will be divided into small chunks. The data will be divided into small chunks. Let's assume that you are loading some data, txt or a PDF, whatever it is. So this file you want to write into C drive or D drive. It's really no matter where you are writing. So when you're writing this data into your hard disk through via the file system, what it will do, it will break your whole data. Let's assume that it is 100 MB, or let's assume that it's 1 MB. This 1 MB data will be break into small pieces. Small pieces. The piece is called a block. The piece is called a block, and is stored into your hard disk. How it will store? The hard disk is collection of, you'll be having a tracks, and we'll be having a sectors. We have a tracks. The circles are called tracks, and these are called sectors. So a small chunk of the data, what are the piece of the data? The chunk we'll call is a block. The block is nothing but whatever the data stores in between your one sector to another sector. This piece of the data will call block. Reading this data, whatever is data is there one sector to another sector, will call seek. Fetching the data from this one sector to another sector will call seek. Seek. Now in the local file system, whatever the block is storing, the size of this block size is 4 KB. 4 KB. So to store 1 MB data, the 1 MB data will be break into 4 KB small chunks, and that chunks will be loaded into our hard disk. And while you are reading the data, it will also do the same. So it will read chunk by chunk. It will read block by block. So while it is reading, every block it is reading, that is called one seek. The seek. Every block you are reading from your hard disk is called seek. After it is seeking, it will transfer the data. So the seek time is 1 Mbps, and data transfer rate is 100 Mbps. This is how the local file system, this is how the file system works. So already we have a file system, then why we need a separate file system? So here the limitation is, every seek you are getting a very small chunk of data, but my data transfer rate is 100 Mbps. I'm not making utilize of the whole data transfer, the rate, the whatever the I have a data transfer rate. I'm not transferring that much amount of the data through. I'm not making use of that speed. I mean the data transfer rate. I'm just passing a small chunk of the. It looks like you have a very big pipe. You have a very big pipe where it can transfer where it can send a huge amount of the data, or it can send a huge amount of the flow, but we are passing this very small flow. We're really not making use of this whole pipe. So to make use of this pipe, what we will do, we have to send the more water. So this is one limitation. The second limitation is, here I do not have a control based on my data. I want to change my block size. I do not have that control here. The second one is, as soon as I loaded the spark.txt file, someone has to take a backup of this. I'm storing the spark.txt file. I feel it's important, so I want it is automatic backup. So in the local file system, will not be having automatic backup. We do not have automatic backup. So one place I stored the spark.txt, this file has to be loaded into multiple locations for the data recovery. If anything happened to one of the hard disk, or if anything happened to one of the machines gone down, I want the backup. So that mechanism is not there in local file system. Will not be having a control. We do not, the data transfer rate and the seek time is very less, and I do not have automatic backup. These are all the limitations of a local file system. Okay, now next let's see distributed file system. The next terminology, next word in this, the HDFS, it is a distributed file system. What is a distributed file system? Try to understand what is a distributed file system. Distributed file system. Distributed file system means the data distributed into multiple machines. The data is distributed into multiple machines. How? It has, yeah, go ahead guys, if I think someone has a doubt. Anyone has any doubt? Ganesh, Vikas, Devashish, Deepika, Gautami, Karthik. Are you guys able to follow? Others?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any doubts guys? Saraswati, Sudha, Sirish?
No.
Okay. Look at guys here. Now what is a distributed file system? As I said, the data is distributed across the multiple machines. Let's say I have a different kind of data. The different kind of data is like, I have some data which is belong to employees. I have some data which is belong to student. I have some data which is belong to projects or software, whatever it is. Now I want to access this employee data. And without non-distributed environment, I can say myself as a client or processing. So what I will do in this case, if I don't have a distributed environment, what I need to do, I have to log into separately to this machine to process the data. I have sent one request to this machine. I have to log into that. I should be authorized to log into that machine, and I have to process the data. And if I want to process other machine also, I have separately log into this machine. I have to process it. And in this case, I have to log in again into this machine. I have to process. It's a 3 machines, fine. If I have 100 some machines, each and every time I need to log into the specific machine, I need to process it. So instead of that, we will be creating one layer on top of these file systems and on top of these machines. All these machines will start sharing the data into this layer. The client needs to connect only this layer. He no need to log into all the machines independently or separately. He just need to log into a layer. This layer we'll call as a distributed file system layer, and an example is network file system. Here these machines have started sharing their data to this network file system layer. As soon as the client is logged into this layer, as soon as the client is started accessing this layer, he is able to see all the data in the single place. All the data into single place in the network file system. So he feels that whatever the data he's seeing from the different machines, but he feels it's a single hard disk, the single location. He no need to log into a machine separately. So this is called distributed file system. An example is, in our organizations we will be seeing that shared drives. We will be seeing shared drives. So each and every person will be sharing some data. Let's say my colleague A has shared some data, colleague B shares some data, and C has shared some data. And I'll just access that network drive. As soon as I access the network drive, I'm able to see the data which is shared by A, B, C. But is that really storing in a single hard disk? No. The data is coming from the different hard disks or different machines, different physical hardware. But as soon as I logged into a specific file system, I'm able to see all the data which is. But here you should be authorized to access the data. Let's say I don't have access to authorization to access the C the data who share the C. The data I may not be able to access. So the advantage of here is the whole data is there in a single location. You can easily process it. So this already we have a distributed file system. Then why we need a different kind of distributed file system? Here the limitations are the whole employee data is stored in a single machine. So each type of data it has a dedicated hardware. There may be chances this hardware may go fail. If this hardware goes fail, I don't have a backup. You may say that I'll take the backup, sir. I will explain if you take the backup, what is the problem with it. So that not be a automatic backup. We need to run a separate job for it, or we need to run. We need to manually either we have to take manually or we have to make it automatic by running some jobs. So when I'm processing this data, when I'm accessing this data or when I'm processing this data, I cannot able to process this data because the process engine will be the process is different. If while processing it, if this machine goes down, I don't have a mechanism saying that you can go ahead and process other data because where I have a same copy of the data is available. I don't have that kind of mechanism. While accessing this data, if it's failed or it's broken, so I don't have any mechanism saying that you go and process this. Okay, that's failed, right? Not a problem. You go and process this. I don't have that kind of mechanism. So because I don't have this kind of mechanism, because my data is not duplicated. Whole data resides in a single dedicated hardware, and there is no replication, automatic replication, and there is no fault tolerant. So when I'm processing this employee data, I have to wait to till I complete this. I cannot go here. Again, you will get into the sequential process, no parallel process. All these limitations will come into picture here. And also it will internally it maintains the local file system only, and the block size is again a 4 KB, so you'll not be having control to change the block size and all. So this is the limitations of this. To overcome these limitations, Hadoop come up with something called Hadoop distributed file system. Hadoop distributed file system. How Hadoop distributed file system will work? It's also a distributed file system. It is also a file system, and it's also a distributed file system, but a different kind of file system, a special kind of file system. The Hadoop distributed file system is a virtual layer on top of your normal file system, a virtual layer on top of your normal file system, and it follows an architecture called master-slave architecture. It follows a structure called master-slave architecture, and what it will do, how it will work. Let me put in very high level, and tomorrow we'll continue in the detailed way and how the data will store and how the data will process. So to make you give an introduction of this, so we have a local file system. Where the HDFS is on top of this, because it's also a distributed file system, and this is our local file system. This is HDFS. So we have seen some limitations of the local file system. In the HDFS, the block size is bigger block. In HDFS, the block size is a bigger block, which is the block in a HDFS is either 64 MB or 128 based on the version you are using. And HDFS has, Hadoop distributed file system has default, there is something called replication factor. Default number of copies. As soon as you are loading data into HDFS, it will keep 3 copies. It will maintain 3 copies for auto fault tolerant, for data recovery, to avoid the data loss. And here you will be having a more control on this HDFS file system, where you don't like to have a 3 copies, you want to have a 4 copies, you can go ahead and change. And where you don't want the block size has to be 64 or 128, and you want to have it's a 32 MB, you can go ahead and change it. Where you have a more control on this file system, where you can change the block size and where you can change any type of configuration in the HDFS. So because we have that much flexibility based on the type of the data, based on the size of the data we're going to handle, we can fine tune your block sizes, and based on the resources are available. Resources means the number of machines you have available, and we can tune your blocks and replications to get the better performance, to give the better performance. Not only that, the data HDFS has there's some other characteristics or other advantages I can say. So we will talk more in details that we don't need homogeneous type of files systems to connect to form a HDFS. We don't need a homogeneous. Homogeneous means same type of data. Same type of machines. Like one machine has a Linux, and all other machines has to have a same type of Linux. And if I'm using Windows, same machines, all the machines should have a same type of machines like Windows. But when it goes to HDFS cluster, it can be mix of anything. It can be Linux, Red Hat, it can be Ubuntu, it can be CentOS, it can be Mac. Because we are not making use of the local file system, we are creating a different kind of layer on top of the all your local file, all your systems. We are creating a different file system. We will be interacting with this file system instead of interacting with this file system. So if your OS, if you are interacting with local file system, it will act as your block size of 4 KB, and it's a normal file system. It will also have some space to or some room to and access or store the files in local file system. And when you are accessing through HDFS, so HDFS has some special room where you can access the data, store the data, and retrieve the data in this. Okay, so tomorrow we will see detailed description, architecture of the HDFS. I strongly recommend you please don't miss tomorrow's class. Why? Because tomorrow we will be seeing the an important one, which is the HDFS architecture. If you understand the HDFS architecture, the going forward the remaining classes will be very easy to understand. And once we complete this architecture thing, we will be doing installation on all your computers based on their configuration, whether we'll go with the virtual box. The virtual box is like this. It looks like an Oracle virtual box. So it's a small software, some small piece of the software. In this virtual box, you can create any number of virtual machines. So based on the RAM and based on the availability of RAM and our system configuration, we can create those many, and we can create a cluster as well in that. We can create a cluster as well in it. So how to do a setup and all, I will be sharing your videos, documents, and we will also do in the classroom. And we will be doing the classroom, I mean in your all together. Like I want you to do a hands-on. It's not like something I download and give you on bundle and you just install. Everything will be readily available. You can go ahead and execute. Those are like a Hortonworks, Cloudera, Mapper. So I'm not going to give that kind of bundles. What we will do, first we will try to understand the Apache. First we'll try to understand the plain Apache. We will install with our hands in the Ubuntu. Then I'll be showing you Hortonworks and Cloudera. It doesn't mean that I'll not show Hortonworks and Cloudera. I'll be giving you an introduction. I'll be showing you how it will work on Hortonworks and Cloudera. The file system, the concepts, the code, whatever you write, it will work across all the distributions without any problem. Without any problem. Okay, so we'll be seeing one after one. Okay, we'll be seeing all one after one. First, we will be seeing in more into Apache, because in Apache each and everything you have to configure with your own. You have to configure, you have to change the configuration parameters, you have to install, and you have to set the class path and everything. You have to do it. So you will really feel that this is what happening internally. But when you go with the Cloudera and Hortonworks, what it is, the readily available softwares bundle they will give you, a virtual box they will give you, and all the softwares will be linked or attached in that. The only thing what you need to do, you need to access that software and make use of it. But when you want to see and what happening internally, what are the configurations I need to tune, so we will learn with the Apache, and I will show you how to change the configurations in a Cloudera as well. Okay, so the Cloudera and Hortonworks will help more in administration part, and development part also. It will be easy because today you want to use a HDFS, MapReduce, and tomorrow you want to use some other tool like a Scoop. Day after tomorrow you want to use on a Hive or some other tools, which it will help you. You don't need to struggle to installations and all those things. Okay, but we will be seeing all three in how we will install in Hortonworks, how we will install in the Cloudera, how we will install in Apache. The three things we will be seeing under detail, and each and every configuration will be saying it. Okay, so actually we will be configuring each and everything with our hands, so we will be understanding it. Okay, so that's it guys. So as part of today's session, so tomorrow we will be continuing with the architecture of the HDFS, and I'll show you how it is better than other distributed file systems like a network file system, or how it is different from others. We will be seeing that tomorrow. Okay, so whoever didn't ping me, whoever I didn't send a message, please ping me your email ID and mobile number, so I'll keep posting you. I'll be keep posting you documents or about the class. So about the some questions I'll be raising over there. I'll be creating a WhatsApp group or a closed group, so where I'll be sharing the information. Okay. So few
Veera,
yeah, Sudhir, go ahead.
yeah, Veera, so we have this recorded session for this.
Yes, we have a recorded session for this, and I'll be sharing
Oh,
this recorded session each and every class after the class. I mean, not
okay,
immediately
like,
after the
yeah,
class. Yeah, not immediately after the class.